Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Meyer. This is my book, Kentucky Haunts. I've been all throughout the state investigating ghosts. I'm going to mess with my presenters back there. I have to walk a little bit. But we're going to tell some ghost stories, and everything that I talk about is going to be a real experience. So I always start out by asking, how many have seen a ghost? Just raise your hand.
I've heard one.
Okay, heard one? Seen one? Okay. That's a rarity. So how many people believe in ghosts, that they might be something more? Okay, and that's usually the way it goes. So I am a sensitive. I sense things around me, and I'm a very analytical person. I have 2 degrees in biology, master's. So I try to debunk everything I might see or hear. So if any one of you have seen a ghost and they tell me a story, I can't deny that you saw or didn't see what you claim to have seen because I wasn't there. But every talk I give, since when we talk about ghosts, it's right on the border of your religious views, your philosophical views, and I respect all of those. Those views are your own. But when you talk about life and death, the reason that I like investigating ghosts is about life. So it's about the connections to the past. It's history. It's about family. It's about faith. It's about what we believe and why we believe it. So I have a view here. So I'm used to walking around and looking at you. So this is what, if you've grown up in America, which I'm looking out and I'm guessing most of you have, you see movies, you read books, you watch TV. This is always the first response, have you seen a ghost? Or if you see a ghost. I have seen many full body apparitions. I have been scratched and had blood dripping down my arm. Nothing scary, nothing bad. I'll tell those stories when I get to them. But it's never like this. This is labeled Those Eyes. Does anyone know who that famous woman is? Betty Davis Eyes, yes. So a lot of times it seems like ghosts are in the dark, and a lot of people are already afraid of the dark. We have night lights as children. We leave the hall light on, candle burning in the window. If I saw that coming down the stairs, I'd be tickled pink. That is beautiful to me. And you see it floating there. I've seen full body apparitions pretty much except for the skull. I had a skull face as a child visit me, not since then. So this is much better, a very attractive, usually there's a lady in white, the gray lady, the red lady. I've always wondered, why are they dressed, and how they lived or died. But that's the way people describe them. So this is a scarier, this is what Hollywood wants you to think. This is a ghost. I've seen something like that, and I usually make the joke that I've had several dates like that, but that's in poor taste. I apologize. The ex-wife stories come in there, but my son is back there, so I try not to say that. Whoops, I just did, didn't I? But these are the types of ghosts that we're talked about. Now we've got Casper and Wendy and the good little witch and the spooky, spooky ghost. As children, we read comic books. Bobby mentioned the movie. The Casper is playing. I grew up in Louisville, so you'll see a lot of shots of Louisville. And when I get to those, I'll ask about where you visited and what you might or might not have seen. But that I've never seen a ghost like that. So ghosts started being white when the winding sheets for burial were dyed. Okay, before that, winding sheets were natural colors, tan, brown. We only started seeing ghosts as white after winding sheets. So, as I said, I'm both a sensitive and an empath, so I feel emotions. You learn how to block them off. As a child, it's scary because nobody understands, and those people, over time, you finally meet people who can do things that you do. And the same with being sensitive to ghosts. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know if a place is haunted? And I'm going to go into that. But with me, when I walk into a place, it's usually an insistence. They're crying out, look at me. look at me. Look at me. I'm here. And I will walk directly to them. Bobby mentioned a ghost tour. I take ghost tours in every town I go to. In strange towns, I usually lead the tour guide to where the ghosts are supposed to be because I'm drawn to them. I sense them. And it's not every time. And so you see these shows. Who watches Ghost Hunters and all Zach Bagans and all those guys? Here's one, two, couple. You don't have to be shy or embarrassed. I watch them. I laugh myself silly. The Exorcist is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Anybody seen The Exorcist? Linda Blair? Okay. A lovely meal of pea soup and all that jazz. I have a good time. So to be scared, it's the unknown. We fear the unknown. And so that's what Hollywood wants to do to you. They take something that's very, and when you have a presence, it's very minor. So let me go one more. Okay. So where are ghosts? Who thinks this is a good place to find a lingering spirit? In a cemetery, a graveyard. So in all the years, and I've been a sensitive my whole life, I've had one experience in a cemetery. So for the last 12 years, I've been researching the Salem witch trials. So I've been walking, crawling, climbing fences. When I go to a new town and I'm researching history, you go to the oldest place in town. And this is Ye Old Burying Point in Salem, Massachusetts. So you have John Hawthorne, you have a lot of famous people from the witch trials there. Some of these objects up here, I call them trigger objects. The ghost shows, they say, oh, never bring home anything from a haunted site. You'll bring home demons with you. Well, I've got a whole collection of demons right here in these jars. That's a joke. So not to step on any toes, I don't believe in demons, okay? I've welcomed every demon in the world. Nothing's ever happened. I was a restaurant in Louisville, restaurant inspector for almost 20 years. You develop relationships. It takes trust. So once I've earned their trust, I worked, anybody familiar with Louisville, traveled, spent a lot of time there? The Highlands in Louisville. The turn of the century, 1900, from about 1890 to 1920, a lot of the buildings both converted into restaurants and people I've met and known there through the years. I've seen quite a few apparitions. I've seen manipulations of physical matter. But graveyards are not a good place. When you die, you spend your whole life. Who wants to spend 10 minutes, an hour, a decade, 100 years in a cemetery? I had one experience, and my son was with me, of a mysterious cat bell. Never found the cat. Don't know if it was a ghost. How about this? A haunted house. Good place for ghosts? In my book, Kentucky Haunts, I have an essay, What Makes a Place Haunted? And when you look it up in the dictionary, it gives 3 definitions. I posit a 4th definition. A haunted place is loved. So it used to be in these old houses, and I talked to a lot of people, you can have a haunting in a new place, but the way our society has changed, we used to have family, generation after generation, in one place. And you sat around the table, you shared stories, you looked at your same family, the faces that you love, you protect. You had a fireplace, hand-carved mantelpieces, hand-carved furniture. And when I go into an old place, I try to go there and stay. The first thing I go is the cellar or the attic because people aren't there. And that's what seems to draw them. And I've had a lot of people say, oh, this place is bad. And I'm like, did you find anything? And they'll tell me, well, we found some articles in the wall when we changed this and that. And I'm like, okay. Take those items, put a couple of them up in your house. They want something they recognize. That's why you hear stories of apparitions walking through walls. I was just at Stella's, it's coming up, Shandy's. They have bricked up various windows, various walls. And the ghosts that people talk about, they walk right through them. And I'll talk about what I think a spirit is. We each have something in our mind what we think a ghost is. But when a place is loved for centuries by a lot of people, and I talk to people and they want to see dead relatives. I've never seen a dead relative. I've seen lots of other people's dead relatives. My mom and dad are both deceased, 20, 30 years for the two of them. I think they're at peace. You know, I don't want to see them. Okay, they're not here. They're in my heart. They're in my photos. They're in my stories. So, but a house that's haunted, for whatever reason, you have something that lingers. In my book, Kentucky Haunts, there are 5 chapters, and I'm going to look at them with you. 2 of them are highlighted. Haunted restaurants at the top, haunted cemeteries at the bottom. Simply because I was a restaurant inspector for 20 years, so I went to a lot of haunted restaurants. And people think they're in cemeteries. Plus, I just told you, I start in every town at the cemetery. In New England, colonial America, 1600s, you start by burying your dead that usually die on the trip there. You build a meeting house. That's the first thing. That was both for religious and political purposes. And then a tavern, which is where you stay, not where you drink. But a lot of them were licensed to sell cider and beer because it's safer than drinking water. But you start in the cemetery, and then I just follow my senses through the town. And usually you'll find a stone that marked the meeting house. And all through New England, you have those. In the cemeteries, you have the markers of famous people and people that I'm looking for. But these are the way my presentation. What's happened to me? So these are 5 examples of ghostly experiences. Some of them, it would take 15 minutes or more just to describe one experience. I've had 2 encounters that happened decades ago that I still can't fully explain. I'm trying, and other people experience parts of it as well. So I talk to those people, we share stories. The Gray Lady was in the Highlands. I dated this woman, was converted, old house. She lived in the basement apartment. She had a dog and a cat. I saw the Gray Lady. The dog saw the Gray Lady. The cat saw the Gray Lady. My girlfriend never saw the Gray Lady. So as soon as I walked in, I sensed something. And I'm like, something's here. And so over time, like I say, it took years. I dated her several years. And the best example, I'm one of those respectful men. I wake up at night. I'm a writer. So when I wake up, I'm awake and I start writing. Well, usually what do you do when you first wake up? You go to the restroom. So not to awaken her because the bathroom door didn't close, I sat on the toilet to tinkle. I don't want to embarrass anybody. There's a couple potty jokes in here. So sitting on the toilet, doing my business, and it's pre-dawn, but there's enough light to see, and a woman walks around the corner from the bedroom toward the bathroom. And to those few who say they've seen a ghost, she walked up to me like this, looked at me, and then she walked around the corner away from me. That's a full body apparition. She had no feet. She just glided around. She looked nothing like my girlfriend. My girlfriend was blonde. This lady had like sandy brown hair. I've never seen that lady before. It's the Gray Lady. Sugar Bear and Stella were the dog and the cat. They saw her every time. So be sitting on the couch, the dog and the cat would watch, and the Gray Lady always walked in the same area, never came out in the living room and the kitchen. And the dog and the cat would look at her, and I'm like, hey, so-and-so, look. And they're like, what? I'm like, look. Priscilla, Sugar Bear. And she's like, what? And she couldn't see her. There was also the presence of a young boy there. She had an antique mirror in the corner and never saw this boy, never experienced anything except I think the gray lady stayed there to comfort the boy. I don't think they were related. And when you are sensitive, you sense sometimes very specific things that may or may not be confirmed later. And that's why, as a biologist, that's why I believe in ghosts. And you can call them spirits or apparitions or angels or whatever you feel best calling them. But it's a presence of something. One night, had an apparition come through the ceiling with her hair hanging down, screaming. And the dog was at the foot of the bed. My fiance was right there, and I woke her up like, look. And she's like, what? Because, you wake her up in the middle of the night. And it's right there. And the dog has already jumped off the bed and is running out of the room. And I'm like, look. And she's not seeing anything. And that's the difference. You can have two people side by side looking in the same place at the same time. And anybody in this room, anybody and everybody can sense what's there. So Thomas Edison, before he died, was creating a device that he said could communicate with the dead. He died before he completed that invention. So, it's an appeal to authority, it's name dropping. I don't know what he saw or didn't see. You have various historical figures who said, like Houdini was supposed to appear on Halloween. That never materialized. But these other ones, don't hog the covers. My house in Louisville was built in the 1950s. When you live in a place for several years, you know what the sound of the refrigerator motor coming on, you know the sound of the furnace, the air conditioner, you know which floors creak, where they creak, what it sounds like. So from time to time, I would hear footsteps coming down my hallway. And you would hear, and you test it out. You go and test. That's what you do when you debunk these things. I'm like, I've never seen it. I don't know who this is. I don't know what it is. And so one night, after living there for many years, I fell asleep on the couch watching TV. We've all done it. I wake up. Like I say, when I wake up, I'm awake. There were dirty dishes, so I'm like, don't want to do those in the morning, so I'm going to do the dishes. So I've got my hands in water. I'm wide awake. I go to bed, walk down that same creaky floor hallway, and my cat's already in bed waiting for me. And I get in bed, pull the sheet up over me, and then beside me on the bed sinks down like somebody's sitting. And as soon as that happened, my cat usually snuggles with me, jumped up, hit the floor, ran down that hallway, skidded at the end of the hall, around the dining room into the living room, because you know every inch of your house, and stayed there. So meanwhile, I'm like, she's never done that before. Meanwhile, the bed is rolling toward me, and something snuggles up against my back. So there is something in the bed with me. The only thing I was concerned about, don't hog the covers. So I'll pull the sheet up over me. I'm like, good night, I'm going to bed. That's how concerned I am with spirit activity. What I think what happened is there was an elderly couple who lived there before me. They raised their 3 sons. They moved. She died. She came back to visit her home one last time. So a lot of these things, sometimes I can prove, sometimes I can't. Don't let go at mangoes. That would take 15 or 20 minutes because it's a 2 or 3 part story. That's the one where I had 2 crescent-shaped claw marks in my arm, dripping blood down. And it wasn't scary. She was reaching out for help. But these are the kinds of experiences. And I love to hear people's ghost stories. And if you have one you want to share at the end, please do. But that's what it's all about, the stories, the history. And so, when you watch these movies and television shows, they usually wait till it's half over that they finally do some research in what's going on here. And then they like, oh, somebody died. Oh, somebody died in my bedroom. Somebody, was murdered here. Well, the first thing I always say, people die everywhere. You don't have, what's the busiest road in Paducah? What's the name of it? Okay. I'm sure people have died there. Car accidents, whatever, people are murdered. You don't have a ghost every 20, because with me in Louisville, Dixie Highway, Waterston Expressway, whatever, you have the crucifixes sometimes every 20, 30 feet. You don't have a walking spirit every 20, 30 feet for 50 miles down the highway. So when I researched my book, it was called Shandy's. We ate there today, Stella's, and very good food and very, very good staff. Anybody eating there? It's here local. You like it? Good stuff? Good, good. Yeah. I did not experience anything there, but it's in my book. I tell the same history that everybody else tells. I asked the staff, what have you seen? What have you experienced? A couple of them, when I was doing this research, told me. You can see in the background there is a bricked up portion where it used to be different than it was. So this is the Highlands Tap Room Grill in Louisville. For those of you who can't see from the back, it does have the name of the place and the city. So that shaft of light is just sunlight coming in. It's not a ghost. But as a restaurant inspector, I do my job, the whole food safety thing, okay? And then when most of that is over, if I sense something, I'll just like, hey, see anything unusual? Ever hear or see anything you can't explain? And if they're into this stuff, you can't shut them up. They talk and talk and talk. If they're not interested, I shut my mouth, do the food safety thing. So, anybody here, if you've ever eaten out or taken a morsel of food home to your home, thank a health inspector, because they work hard. Some are better than others. I am very, very thorough when I was doing my job. So since I sense something, and they're kind of hesitant, and then after they told me, well, keys are moved, I hear my name, a voice whispers in my ear, hair stands on end, all the regular stuff. I'm like, there's an old woman here. She died up in your attic. And they're like, what? And I'm like, and so that's the stairs to the attic. There's an office, and then there's several rooms up there that are unfinished because the restaurant and the bar are downstairs. About 6 months later, they had family of the people that used to live there. And they're like, yeah, our grandmother used to live here. She died in the attic in her bedroom. It's a fire. So I never researched this place. I didn't know any of these people. So how do I know that? And I can't tell you, except that I knew it. And the way to experience it, whether you live in a 10-year-old home or a 300-year-old house, it takes time. It takes time to learn and experience. And it's never anything bad. Cafe 360 in Louisville, it has a terrible reputation. The manager and the staff, super nice to me. I see you. Oh, okay. I would eat there. Toward the end, one of the workers unfortunately committed suicide there. He had a drug problem. Super nice guy. Worked with me. And that's the whole thing. People who are honest to me, people who work with you, that makes for a safe restaurant. The people who hide. I walked in restaurants, the whole staff would just run, back in the kitchen. And I'm like, well, somebody's got to help me, you want to just do this all on my own? And sometimes I had to. They would just ignore me, And my second book is called True Tales of a Health Inspector, okay? Unfortunately, they were left behind. I have 2 ghost-related books here. But people love hearing those stories. I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to tell ghost stories today. But this is the stairway to nowhere. It's very dirty because all they did up there was smoke hookah, okay? And it wasn't in this part. But it's hard to see, and I have a laser thing that doesn't work very well. But there's a couple orbs there. So I'm not a big believer in orbs. If you watch any of this stuff on TV, they are just super psyched out about orbs. 99.9 6, 7, 9% of the time, it's dust or an insect, okay? If you have a ball of light, an orb, that goes through the wall, comes back through the wall, zips past you, goes around, does weird stuff, then I may look into it. But the orbs here, it's dust, okay? It's nothing to be scared of. I'll briefly, one of those other tales, I'll cut to the chase. I was inspecting a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant. It took years to earn their trust. At the end, I'm walking down in the basement. All that's down there is a keg cooler, a large walk-in cooler. And as I approach, it had a section about this wide to the side. As an inspector, I had a flashlight. You walk down, pitch black, because you don't want roaches to scatter when you turn the light on. So you walk back in the dark, then you turn your light on to see if there's any kind of roaches or mice or rats. That's how you detect vermin. Anyway, as I approach that corridor, the two managers, grown men in their 30s, they go like this. And like I say, I've been there for years, and I'm like, everything okay, fellas? And they're like, just staring at me. I'm like, we've been through a lot. You can tell me what's going on. And they're like, we had a priest here, and he says we have a malignant spirit. And I'm like, cool, because that's what I want to hear. And so they tell me the story, and they're like, okay, our female staff won't come down here at all anymore. The men will only come down here in tandem pairs to get things out of the beer cooler. And as I was walking through, those big giant 5, 10, whatever gallon things where they puts the water in the cone cup, they had 2 of those filled 80% with a little aluminum foil on the top. And I'm concerned with a stagnant water source, whether it's inside or outside, it's breeding mosquitoes. But it was blessed by a priest. Those were giant containers of holy water. So these people were serious. They were scared. So I'm talking about, the things that may or may not be there. And I'm like, okay, you did fine on your inspection. Do you mind if I just sit here in the dark and see if anything happens to me? And they're like, oh, okay. And I had a crappy government computer. It took several minutes to boot up. So I'm sitting there in the dark. I take a flat back chair. I scoot it up against the wall. And I ask questions. And any of you can do this. You don't have to do it verbally. You can just say the questions in your mind. Hi. Anybody here? Anybody want to talk to me? Nothing happened to me. Okay, so I'm disappointed. So at the end, I'm just singing a song to myself because I'm bored, waiting on the daggone computer to come to life. So I do my paperwork, go upstairs. They both jump up from the bar, and they're like, what happened? What happened? And I'm like, well, just because nothing happened doesn't mean, that nothing has happened or will happen. And they're like, come with us. So I'm like, okay. So I follow them back to their office, and they didn't tell me. They had me on videotape the whole time. So they had staff that were stealing, so they put cameras down there. So the only light is usually there's, like on this exit sign, a little tiny red dot. Other than that, it's a basement. It's pitch black. So they go back through their videotape, and basketball-sized orbs on videotape are flying in front of me, over my head, behind me. And I saw nothing. I felt nothing. And so I'm like, well, that's interesting. And so then they say, did you see the wall breathe? And I'm like, breathing walls, cool. I want to see this. They said behind my chair, while I was sitting there, they're watching me, that the wall was inundating in and out. So I'm like, I want to see this too. So it started to get busy. One of their staff, female staff, walked in. And for those of you not familiar with the restaurant business, they refer to the health inspector as El Diablo. So you've got a malignant spirit, and now this darn El Diablo standing right there in front of you. So she's hesitant to come in, and it's getting busy. So I'm like, okay, you're getting busy. I'll have to look at that some other time. So a few months later, I'll go and fill you in because the time is looking good to fill this out. I go back on a complaint. It's not 6 months later for the routine inspection. First thing a health inspector does, up go the sleeves, lots of soap on your hands, you wash your hands, you see your arms, blah, blah, blah. You ask them about, whatever the complaint was. I'd already done that, washed my hands, going to just check things out real quick. I walk not 10 feet away. There's a hand sink here, dishwasher area is over here, there's another hand sink. Then the prep area is back there. The first thing I see, improperly cooling items. So things have to cool to a certain temperature at a certain time. So I'll pull out my thermometer. I'm about to put it in one of the food items. And there's the blood dripping down my arm. So it was just 20 seconds ago. It was 10 feet. I did not touch anything. There was nothing on my arms. I took photos. So the first thing I'm thinking is not, oh, here's that malignant spirit after me. He's got me now. It's like, I'm a health inspector. I don't want to drip blood in their food. That's what I'm worried about. So I walk over there to the hand sink in the dishwashing area. I rinse off the blood. And so, again, I still don't know what's going on. So I'm walking down in the basement, and to people who may know that area, there is a road behind it, and then a few hundred yards beyond that is Waterson Expressway. So the impression I got is that a young woman was in an auto accident. Those big orbs were headlights coming at her while she's waiting for help. Finally, when somebody got there to help her, she reached out and grabbed her arm, and that was the blood crescents on my arm. And so since that happened, people say, boy, I bet you don't go back there. I'm like, I can't wait to go back there, because I don't know. And it's possible I could look up through all the records and find that there was an accident there. It happened at night. It was a female. That's about all I can ever find. But when you go in these various restaurants, and it doesn't have to be a restaurant, it's just an old building. So this is what I saw. I gave a presentation a week ago in Louisville, and I'm like, does anybody know who Denny Crum is? Okay, so you guys are much more wise than they were in Louisville. Denny Crum was the longtime coach of the Louisville Cardinals, okay? If I said, Mr. Rupp, you would probably know Mr. Rupp, because usually Louisville likes Louisville and the rest of the state likes Kentucky. I like Duke, so, Okay. Kentucky's my number 2 team. But in Kentucky, basketball is a religion. People are crazy. Sorry, they are. I hope you're not offended by that. But I used to say, he used to do commercials for this restaurant. This is Johnny's. You've eaten at that restaurant?
Years ago.
Yeah, of course, because it's now a CVS drugstore. I think there's one over there in the lobby. They're trying to put them up everywhere like Walgreens. They destroyed this building. It was, some people say it was about to be, and I think it was, on the historic preservation list. This was one of the 5 or 6 log homes in that area of Louisville, Taylorsville Road area, from the 1800s. Right beside it, one of the cool things right beside it, the bar and some of the dining, the Hikes Family Cemetery is right outside the window. So at dusk, when the sun's going down and sometimes you got a fog, is really cool to eat right beside that cemetery. Supposed to be a ghost in the ladies' restroom. So I've been in more ladies' restrooms than any woman in this room, okay? That's what people do. And I'll tell you another experience there. But they tore this building down. I used to joke before Mr. Crum died, this is what's left of Denny Crum's career. Ba-doom boom, okay? But you don't disrespect the dead, okay? So Denny Crum ate here, and he did commercials there. And the food was supposed to be good. I never met a ghost there. It wasn't my assigned area. For those of you who know Louisville, I was in the Highlands. This is out toward Bardstown Road toward Taylorsville. Anybody been to Bardstown, Kentucky? I was there just a couple weeks ago with my son. And this is the Talbot Tavern, okay? Lots of ghost stories. So you saw at the very beginning, ghosts walking upstairs. So whether it's a bricked up window or door, A lot of people, like the mirror I mentioned, think there are portals that ghosts like to be. My experience, stairways. This is the way they used to go. You know, all the work is downstairs, the cooking and the cleaning. You go upstairs to your bedroom to rest. And so ghosts can be, there's actually another orb here. I don't think it's a ghost. Jesse James has a room named after him. There are 6 themed rooms. I've stayed in all of them. There are his bullet holes across one of the rooms that he was shooting at what they say were birds. I think he was shooting at a ghost, okay? Or he was drunk out of his gourd after playing cards, because that's what he did there. You choose the ghost or the drunken, crazy guy with a gun. This is the Lincoln Suite. Lincoln's ghost is everywhere, okay? He's not, but they claim he is, because everybody loves Abraham Lincoln. Does anybody here hate Abraham Lincoln? Come on, just one person. One person hates Abe. Honest Abe, the big stovepipe hat and all that. He killed vampires, you know, right? Right? Okay. So this is the Lincoln Suite. I have lots of little tricks that I use to try to entice a spirit that doesn't want to talk to me. I'm in the Lincoln Suite, a stack of 10 pennies stacked where they're teetering toward the edge. So who's on a penny? Abe himself, right? So you talk to him, you say, hey fella, Mr. President, why don't you knock those pennies off for me? You can do it if you're here. Didn't happen. In restaurants, one of the things I would do once they would tell me it's haunted, not just investigate whatever thing I sense. If I don't sense or if I do sense, I go by myself into the cellar, the basement, turn around at the top of the stairs in the pitch dark, and I ask whatever's there to push me down the stairs. So a lot of people in these shows, they're scared to death of stuff like that. Guess how many times I've been pushed down the stairs? 0. It don't happen. It takes, so my take on what a spirit is that it's an electromagnetic energy force. Our synaptic firings in the brain are electric based. I think that if you desire strongly to hang out a little while after you pass, that you're able to stay. Unfinished business, as they say. That's why the historical, and at the end here, we're going to talk about the Paducah witches, because I'm interested in the story, not the witches, the story. So with Mr. Lincoln, he stayed there as a 9-year-old child. He traveled through Bardstown. It was a stagecoach drop-off, pickup. He traveled there with his parents on business. Lincoln wasn't there. My girlfriend, who was there, never dreamed, all the years I knew her, she never, I'd ask her, because I really like dreams and nightmares. I talk to people a lot about them. Never. There she had a nightmare about a bearded man standing over her in her sleep. So, I don't know. You just have to think, well, was that? Did old Abe really want to look at my girlfriend while she's sleeping? Maybe he does. Maybe he did. I don't know. I didn't see the feller. Right next door to the Talbot Inn Tavern is the Jailer's Inn. Anybody ever stayed there? Okay. We were just there, and their breakfast is wonderful. The owner, been there for more than a decade. He's never seen a ghost there. But lots of people tell him they're there. It was a working jail. They had a gallows right in the back, so 15 feet from where you eat your lovely tea and breakfast. There used to be people strung up and hanged for their crimes there. There's also, they would shoot you, firing squad. You know, he talks about that after you finish your meal. And then that is the gate that they used to transport. There's an alley back there. Pioneer Cemetery is directly behind that gate. John Fitch, anybody know who John Fitch is? He was stolen from history. He invented the steamboat before that other fella I won't mention that we learn in school. But that's the way history does. So in Pioneer Cemetery, John Fitch died, was buried there, but because he's famous, what do we do with famous people? We dig them up and we put them in the town square. So he's a tourist trap, you know. Bardstown has a circle, not a square, but they buried him again. So, you know, I don't know about you. I don't know if it bothers you that somebody digs up your bones after you're dead. But I sensed something in a couple places, but I didn't see any ghosts. And don't worry, I have seen ghosts, and I'll get to those. They have an actual jail cell that you can sleep in. When I first started staying there, it was a water bed. Anybody used to have a water bed? Huh? Miss those? I miss them. When I got my first water bed, I was living with my brother in Wichita, Kansas. Okay? When you live in Wichita, Kansas, in January, you don't fill up the bed and sleep in it on the same night. Just letting you know. This one was nice and warm and cozy, comfy. Both of Jailers Inn and Talbot, they have a journal in every room, so people write their experiences down. Some see, some don't. I believe very few of what I read, if any. Lexington, famous city here. Lots of people probably been there. Gratz Park Inn, beautiful place. I didn't sleep there. I visited, obviously, because I took the photo. I didn't sense anything there. There's another hotel down the street. Somebody was shot, murdered on the steps. His blood is supposed to reappear on a certain day every year. Some say every night. I go down there. I didn't see any blood. You know, if not, I would have scraped some up, put it in one of these cool jars, which I'm going to get to later. People die everywhere. They don't leave a ghost everywhere. So when you do research, you know, because I have a lot of interests. Whenever I travel, ghosts is always something I look up before I go. Okay, what can I go? What do I want to see? Is this true? Is this a bunch of stories? When you see the same story time after time after time, the same quotations, it's not true. Somebody thought it up one time, spread the tale. It's on all these websites. So I don't know, maybe there is something at the Gratz Park Inn. I didn't see it. This place, Griffin Gate Marriott, Lexington, okay? With the health department, Louisville, we would have annual trainings. And this building in the back, there's the front of it. Big, beautiful building they use for special events. The Marriott is the big hotel over there. So when you are, I'm not a ghost hunter, by the way. I don't hunt ghosts. I'm an enthusiast, okay? And a lot of people come to me, say, you know, our house is haunted. I'm like, great, cool. And they're like, I want it gone. Well, good luck. They probably want you gone too. It's their house. They're not going anywhere. All these shows that you see, and they burn the sage, and you know, I can recite. I watch them, and I can tell you exactly what the medium's going to say, and then what the priest is going to say. Okay? And they're like, well, it was good for a while, but then it came back. Yeah, it's all in the belief in what's in your head. So I was dreaming. I had gone to trainings there for years. I was staying there. I had 2 roommates. We were only supposed to have 1. But I had a dream. Go outside to this place in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay. So I'm a nerd. I can admit it. I had on my Batman pajamas. Black pajamas, Batman down the side. It's cold out there. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. I didn't care what time it was. It's dark. I wanted to go because it told me to go out there. So I go out there, and the dream was very specific. I saw scenes from the past of the property, how it used to be. I got the name of the person that died there without me having researched anything. I was off by 2 letters. So anyway, I go out there. There's a barred owl. Who cooks for you? It's a barred owl. Kind of spooky. Good atmosphere. Little mist coming down, middle of the night. Warm, cold ground, warm skies. Nothing happened. So I go back in, or try to go back in. I didn't take my room key. So here's a guy in his Batman pajamas walking in the middle of the night up to the clerk, say, can you let me in my room? So I told you it was for work. My coworker was there. He's the one who booked the room. So I go in, And they're like, well, we can't just let you in a room. Your name's not on the register. And I'm like, well, you can call him. His name is blah, blah, blah. And so they let me in, and that's another story to tell. The Brown Hotel, Louisville. Beautiful. You've been around. Good for you. There's Mr. Brown, his statue. He's got a little dog right next to him. Supposedly, you can smell his cigar smoke. We had trainings at this hotel, too. When you work in government, you do lots of trainings, whether you want to or not. Anybody know who Jenny Wiley is? Okay, good. I have a smart crowd here. They didn't have a clue. Jenny Wiley was captured by Indians. Sorry if that's politically incorrect. That's what I called them growing up. Native Americans. Her family killed. She escaped, came back to River, Kentucky, and is buried right underneath that tree. So with all the horror that happened to her, all her life experiences, when she came back, she married somebody, had a large family, lived out she died of old age. I lay under that tree for a couple hours. I wish it was at night, but it was a day. There's a nice little river fire station right there. Nothing. She's at peace. She already lived her nightmares. But this is what history brings to you. You start researching. So I read books. I'm like, okay, I would have loved to have met you, Jenny, but it wasn't our time. Cumberland Falls, beautiful place. There's supposed to be a ghost bride there. Darn these guys who stand up their bride at the altar. Okay, they wait, they cry, and then they fling themselves off a tall area, and their ghost walks under there. It's a story. It's a ghost story. These are some spooky stairs at night. There are orbs on those stairs. It's not a ghost. And so when I give a ghost talk, other people who tell stories and ghost hunters, they want you to think that everything's out to get you, everything's scary, and they can help you. I tell you the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. You may not believe everything I say. This is one of the coolest ghost stories. I didn't sense anything there. Harrodsburg, there's a little park, young park, obviously, if you can read that. There's about 20 parking spaces. It used to be the inn place where you had the nice salt springs and people who had money would go there, and they would host dances. A young woman who liked to dance danced with men, and she wouldn't tell anybody her name. Well, she danced until she died. She died in the arms of her dance partner. Now, to me, that is freaking scary, okay? Is it scarier for the poor lady who croaked in your arms, or the poor guy who has to live the life with knowing he danced with this woman who died in his arms? Gee, did I kill her? Was my cologne that bad? Did not have deodorant on? But this is right there as you pull up, and it's a great ghost story. I don't know. She's supposed to appear at night wandering across there. Again, she was jilted. She didn't have that romantic dream that she wanted. Old Fort Herod. Okay. These are all replicas. So many of the places in Kentucky and throughout the world, we rebuild what we think we know what they used to look like. There is a cemetery. All the names are gone. So you don't know who's there or who's not there. Again, I didn't feel anything. The old Fort Herod was right across the road. There's a creek down there, supposedly, and this is another one of those famous ghost stories. Somebody was decapitated and their headless corpse walks through there, scaring people. Those wacky Indians with their tomahawks just cut that sucker's head off. I didn't see it. In Louisville, one of my favorite parks, Iroquois Park, I used to play, roam. Supposed to be a headless ghost there. I never saw that ghost either. Osage orange tree, historic tree in Kentucky. There's a cannon, very historical, natural bridge. I've got a couple good stories I want to get to at the end, so I'm going over these. If you have questions about any of these places, I tell you if I've experienced anything or not. This, of course, they should have signs on these kinds of places. No stupid people, because they walk too close to the edge and they fall down, go boom, and die. And then, of course, the legend is, their ghost is there. Well, I don't want to see no stupid ghosts, okay? You fell off the cliff and you died. I'm sorry for your family. That's all tragic. But, go in your grave and have a nice nap. Beautiful scenery. That's what I love about it. I'm a big hiker, and beautiful hikes there. So now we're in the chapter on haunted roads and highways. Again, you will hear the same legends over. You park your car and you sprinkle some powder or dust on, and these ghostly kids push you up the hill. Supposedly there was, back in early American times, an ambush. They killed the people. The wagon rolled down the hill. They finished them off in that creek, and they're not happy about it. I didn't see anything, didn't sense anything. So that's me. You see all this gray hair? That's what happened, okay? That's scary, okay? My son took that photo. In every town just about, there's a hot rod haven. In Louisville, there's 2. This is one of them. That image on the tree, if you look close beside that handsome fellow there is a devil. That's the devil tree. I won't go through the whole, it's the same hot rod haven, somebody dies. It's on prom night, they come back. The fellow was hanging from a tree branch and she commits suicide. But the devil tree is they tried to cover up that image on the tree. Over the years, I went there, it was yellow, it was white. Here it's kind of purple. They finally got rid of it by, just like Johnny's restaurant, they cut the tree down. So the devil tree is no more. We've probably had chicken by this guy. It used to be good. I see some old fogies like me who used to eat good chicken. Now it's a bucket of grease, okay? But it's good grease, right? It's safe, But the colonel there, lots of ghost stories about, this is one of the most beautiful cemeteries. You have some nice ones here. They're coming up here in just a minute. I never saw a ghost there. Bardstown Cemetery, same thing, a couple beautiful, I love cemeteries, the architecture of the mausoleums, the headstones, the statues. So now we're in this town called Paducah. Lone Oak German Cemetery. Lots of stories. My favorite, this to me makes a ghost story. So why is this poor fella all the way in the back by himself? What did they do to be isolated like that? That to me is what's interesting. And there is a story there. I don't know exactly what it is. There's also a legend of a werewolf there. My son, my traveling companion, was there with me. In fact, he's that little speck of blue all the way in the background. But when I was there, I heard the howling of a dog, like the Hound of the Baskervilles, Sherlock Holmes. And that could have been the origin of the werewolf legend there. I didn't see no ghosts. I didn't see any werewolves. I didn't even see Scooby-Doo, okay? Nothing there. But it's a beautiful cemetery. We have Scooby-Doo fans. Great. I love Scooby-Doo. So this is another, what happened here? So, people tell me vandalism. So Oak Grove Cemetery, if you look closely, up at the top, that woman has no head. This poor child down here, she has no head. All through that cemetery, there was hardly any vandalized gravestones. But to me, this might be a future ghost story. Why knock these people's heads off? Were they that hated? Did the person who built these two out of all these others just not use enough cement there on the neck? But again, that's how legends start, right? It may start right here. Witches in Paducah. So I've been to Paducah 3 times over the last 30 years. So I told you with ghosts, research is the same way. You have to do lots of research. While I've been here tonight, I've been talking to various staff, got some papers I've already researched before I came. This is from the Salem witch trials. This poor fellow here begging for mercy, he got none because he was hanged. He was in his 70s. I won't get into the whole story because I want to talk about Paducah. And I have just a couple minutes left. But I have found historical records. Whatever you learned in school about the Salem witch trials is wrong. It was a cover-up, okay? I'm in my 4th volume, and I will get it out before I die. In fact, 4 months ago, had a blood clot in his leg. I was airlifted to 2 hospitals. I've had 5 operations. I've gone through weeks in the hospital, to a walker, to a cane. I'm living and breathing. That's scary. Okay? I will get Abigail Williams her story told before I die again. That's the 3rd time I've almost died. So here is the legend locally. It varies a little bit. Mother Mary Edwards and her daughter were accused of witchcraft. Basically, she was supposed to be burned. We didn't burn witches here in this nation. That was over in Europe. We hanged them. Not hung them. They were hanged, not hung. The fire blew out a couple times, and they thought it was divine intervention. They didn't burn her. So when looking at the facts of it, of course, I've already said no executions by fire, no records of the accuser or the accused, destruction of the records. We're talking about the flooding early in the history. So I'm going to look at probate records and different records to try to find out what's scary about this. Is not that there were witches or even accused witches. The scary thing is I can point at somebody, accuse them of being a witch, and then they want to execute you just because they don't like you. You're different. You're smart. You come from a different place. You smell funny. You talk funny. You look funny. You walk funny. Whatever. That's the scary thing. Thank you very much for attending. I've had a good time. I hope you have too. I've got another book coming out next year on a haunted theme. My publisher says it's too long a title. The History and Hauntings of Disappointment, Punishment, and Other Rooms of Concealment and Isolation. That's a long title. There's a subtitle in there somewhere. But it's a good book. It's already written. If you have stories you want to share, you can come up and talk to me. If you have questions, I have a list for emails if you want to stay on my contact list for any books I write, or if it's just about the Salem. It's a fascinating book, folks. You can get on this email list. I have some business cards that I can give you that has my contact information. When he says it's time, that's when, if you have questions or comments, we'll talk about those. But thank you very much. And like I say, I've just scratched the surface of all the places that I've gone, that I've had experiences. So there's nothing out there that's going to hurt you, nothing scary, but it is fascinating. And if you want to believe that maybe you can see your parent or your child, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your best friend, your neighbor, maybe there's a chance of that happening. I don't know. I've never met any of those. I've met strangers every time. But I've loved them. When I travel and do research for ghosts and witches, anything that I write and research, there are so many fascinating stories out there. Like when I went to the old Salem Village, it's now Danvers, Massachusetts, 1752, they changed the name. When I went there, and I've gone there several times, every time I go there, hello, good morning, they won't speak to me. They won't look at me. They're scared to death. I'm a stranger in a strange land. Whatever happened there, and I know what happened there, it was so bad that it still taints the area today. And it's a fascinating place. These ghosts are also fascinating, but the Salem witch trials, wow. And I've met people doing cemetery restoration. I went in a cemetery there in Gloucester where some of the related folks from the trials were. 90% of the stones, the grave markers, the headstones, the footstones, demolished, broken into tiny shards. One of them's up here. I never take anything that is historically, I take the trash. And I think we're done. Thank you.